Hello, everyone, and welcome to VanillaSoft's latest webinar, How to Succeed as a New Insurance Agent. Now, it's interesting times right now, and there's a lot of statistics flying out, a lot of them very worrying and some of them very sobering. As an insurance agent, though, especially as a new insurance agent, I don't mean to pile on, but here's a statistic you ought to know. About 50 to 80% of new agents aren't selling insurance 3 to 6 months later, which means 50 to 80% of you are on this call won't be selling insurance by December. That makes me a little unhappy. We would like very much for you to be a success. You've made an investment of your time. You're making an investment of your money. You're choosing a new career. Let's make sure that's a success. And for agency owners also, that's not any help to them because they're investing in you, they're spending time, they have to keep recruiting new agents. What can we do to make sure when a success so we don't have this crazy turnover, people can follow what really is a very good career path and become successful insurance agents? So that's what we want to do today is explore, why is there this failure? What is it? Is it selling skill? Do we need more training? Is it expectations? Maybe are your expectations too high? They don't meet them right away, so you drop out and get discouraged and find something else. We need to do this better. We need a way to be successful, and I want to make sure that you have what you need to be able to get there. So that's what we're here for today. Before we begin, I'd like to just go through a few of the ground rules. You are in listen-only mode, so interaction in terms of chatting with each other, but you can, if you would like, use the chat window, and we'll get back to you and we can respond that way. Or you can use at VanillaSoft, tag us if you're using Twitter, at VanillaSoft, and we can speak with you that way as well. And I'd love to hear from you. How many of you are new agents, or are you just starting out? Maybe some of you might actually even be agency owners. You're curious what we have to say and maybe what you can do to improve your retention. Especially even if you're actually a veteran insurance agent and you've got some tips of your own, please put them in the chat window. That'd be terrific to share that out as we're going through our conversation as well. It'd be nice to hear from you. The other part of this is that we are recording it. So if you miss something, it will be recorded. It will be available on the VanillaSoft YouTube channel. So we'll have it up there, or from the VanillaSoft website. We have other insurance themed webinars there as well that you can check out. And we also do a kind of high level little playlist of just sort of quick bits, about 12 minutes total, about 6 clips from each webinar. So you get a quick overview of some of the more salient or important points in the webinar. So now I want to introduce my guest. His name is David Duford, and he is a veteran insurance agent. He shockingly owns davidduford.com, surprise, surprise, which is a great place, a great resource for you if you're looking to find someone who can help you become a better insurance agent. That's what he specializes in, helping you become a top performer, and that would be in final expense, also in Medicare and in annuity sales. So he's the guy you want to talk to. He's the author of 3 books. And the first one is The Official Guide to Selling Insurance for New Agents. Perfect guy to have on. You should look that one up. He's also written The Official Guide to Selling Final Expenses, and he's also got this one, and I think this is a terrific read. Interview with Top Producing Insurance Agents. So get tips from the best, right? So David, one last thing before I introduce you. You have a website, a YouTube channel with 1.6 million views and 14,000 subscribers. That's terrific.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I can tell you, everyone, go have a look at his YouTube channel. There's lots of great content there. A lot of it nice, quick little bits. You can grab, bite, have something, a little a sort of boost, brain boost, insurance brain boost before you begin your day, and then hit right into those sales with some new tips, tricks, and inspiration before you get going. So welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me here.
All right. Yeah. So take people through what we're going to cover today, and then we'll get right into it, okay? So
Sure.
First off, I want to go through, obviously we're talking about secret success. And when I was talking to David, I was surprised what he said for the very first thing was choosing your product line. was interesting. Okay, choosing your product lines, knowing what you're going to be selling, and then choosing the right agency. That makes sense. The work ethic, right? So what do you really need to know, and how hard do you have to work? What goes into being an insurance agent? Having a full lead funnel, right? And I think one of the things that we're going to talk about there, and something that I've heard certainly a lot of, is a lot of people fail because they get started, they're doing really well, but their funnel isn't full enough. They kind of run out of steam, and then they get discouraged and drop out of insurance sales. And then finally, having the right mindset, which honestly is where I thought we were going to start all of this conversation, but looks like choosing the right product line was the number one for David. So we'll find out a bit about that. So David, before we begin, let's start right in though with what is the secret to success? Can you give us a high level, like if there's a one little nugget we could just take away from here, what is the secret to being a successful insurance agent when you're just starting out?
Focus. That's it. Focus.
Okay. Good
So
answer.
I can kind of go into more detail. I read this in a book. I think it was, I don't know who it was exactly, but somebody was listening over Bill Gates and I think Warren Buffett talking, and somebody asked them, what's the secret to your high level of success in their life? And both of them said focus. And I think that's true for the insurance agent as well. You know, we're blessed to live in a time with, I would argue, abundant opportunity to be successful at this business. And sometimes that can be a detriment. Sometimes too much choice is not good. But focusing on one product line, one marketing strategy, one niche is always the superior method to get started. The thing about insurance is it's deceptively difficult. From the outset, it looks like, when you look from the outside in, you know, it's just some guy talking to some person and making a lot of money. Well, it's a lot more complicated than that. There's a lot of moving parts. There's things that you aren't aware of that are happening underneath the surface psychologically or what have you. And the more we can simplify a process in anything in life, I think the better results or better chances of results we'll give ourselves. So that's why I vote, for me personally, focus is critical. And and the key is to keep that focus long enough so that you can develop your skill set and start to execute and get results personally.
Okay, perfect. Makes total sense. Now, I want to key in a little again on what you said in there too. You were talking again about finding the right niche and having the right product and the right, focus, right? You talked about focus. So one of the first things you said to me again was the right product. So what do you mean by that? And how do you go around choosing the right product or product lines that fit what? Is it your personality? Is it what does it take to understand what the right product is for you?
So it's a tough task because most agents get into this business because somebody recommends it to them. They know somebody who claims to do very well, and then they're brought into an environment where it's very MLM-ish, I guess you could say. There's a lot of rah-rah and Kool-Aid being passed around. And the agent doesn't really have the opportunity to do due diligence. They're asked to jump in with both feet, blind, without any prior, introspection or discovery. So I think when getting started, it's just absolutely critical to do an analysis of what the opportunities are out there and compare them really to what you want out of your life. For example, we focus in the senior market. We sell products like life insurance to seniors, final expense coverage is what we call it, Medicare, financial planning via annuities. And you have to have, first of all, a penchant for enjoying that market. You have to have an understanding of psychologically of how that market works. You have to decide if, for example, you want to sell over the phone or face-to-face. There's a different skill set required for either of those. So, how do you do it? I just think you just need to slow down, not jump in all of a sudden, but do your research. The nice thing these days is you do have the internet, after all, YouTube and other resources to investigate opportunities. And it's more important now than ever because there's so many options and they all tell you how great they are. But the problem is many times what is told is different from what actually is the truth. So, and it may be your only chance at being successful in this business. So many people quit this business. You say 60 to 80. I think it's like 90 to 95% in the first year. The failure rate is enormous. And a big part of that is people are recruited into this business under false pretenses. They're not informed on what their options are. They don't understand how the product or the market really operates, and they kind of leave with a bad taste in their mouth. So for me, instead of going, all in, there's a time and a place to do that. You need to look through the options, do your research on the companies you may be considering, do research on the markets that those companies represent, and see if it's right for you. And if it doesn't sound good, don't do it. Kind of trust your gut when it comes to picking which direction to go.
Okay, thanks. Now, I want to go back to, you mentioned MLM or multi-level marketing as well, and I think I don't want to go down that avenue really in any kind of depth, but I've sat through, I think, a couple of pitches that were more MLM type insurance sales before. One, it was a former high school colleague reached out to me, as a financial planner. I'm thinking, terrific. I'd love to hear from this guy. I'm, struggling to try and figure out, my finances. And I sat down with him, and I got kind of angry by the end of it. I'm like, you're not offering any services here. You're just asking me to join you and tell me how much money I can make for you. And then more recently, my wife was like, hey, let's do a little gig thing, and maybe we can sell insurance on the side. And I this guy I met, and it sounds really good. And again, I went to the presentation, and it talked, half the conversation was about the insurance they sell, still kind of from an overview of how great it is and you should sell it. And then there was very much, the last part was very much, come sell it. So as I'm a new rep, or I'm someone that's looking to get into insurance and I'm looking at my options, how do I weed out? Is there any way you can help me just understand or weed out what would be an MLM type pitch or agency versus one that isn't?
Yeah, great question. So if in the pitch they talk more about recruiting than selling, you're probably at an MLM pitch, all right? So if they talk about how you can make passive income through recruiting people in your network, your circle of influence, and they spend an inordinate, which to me is more than 10% of the time, talking about that as a big deal and how all the big people in the business or the organization recruit their way to success, it's likely you're part of an MLM. Let me step back. It's when I say MLM, what I'm really driving home here, it's a cultural issue, and a culture in the sense of the company. If there's a culture of mass recruitment, that's what I'm referring to as an MLM. I don't have a problem with MLM as a structural idea. It's how all organizations are. There's the top of the food chain and everything downwards. And insurance sales is no different. You can't get away from that. What you need to question is, where are the values placed? Is it on becoming a producer, how to sell effectively, learning your products so that you can help your clients better? Where is the time spent on developing the agent? That's what I mean by MLM. There's a preference in either direction. Now, other things that you can look for if it's an MLM, if you spot Ferraris, Porsches, fast cars in the parking lot, you might be a part of an MLM. If you're shown your Rolex watch, or the guy who runs it shows off his Rolex watch, you might be part of an MLM. I actually had a guy that I recruited once. This is a well-known MLM operation. He was brought into the business to check it out, and they sat around this conference table, and like part of the pitch was handing literal fat stacks of cash, all right, and showing off the rings and the Rolex watches that this top guy allegedly had, and it was just. He just was like, what is this? I just want to learn how to make a success of this business, not, bask in somebody else's material glory. So, if it smells bad, it probably is. Everybody knows what MLM is like for the most part. It's got a weird feel to it. Most of you watching this, you'll know it pretty quickly. That just won't feel right. It just won't, there's something off about it. Just like I said in the last question, just trust your gut, man. Because it's probably, if something's off, probably something is off. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. All right, thanks. I think we got a little bit ahead there on kind of the difference between agencies, but we'll put a pin in that to come back. I do also want to go back a little bit more to, again, choosing the right product line. Again, so now we're in the time of COVID. Things are a little bit different. Is there any advice, anything you're seeing, any trends, anything maybe to avoid in this kind of world in terms of products?
So I look at life insurance and most insurance products as long-term purchase decisions. People buy life insurance because, oh, they love their family members that they're insuring, or they want to leave money behind. So there's that element of it too. But life insurance for most is a lifelong financial commitment. It's not even like paying off a car or a home where you do reach the end of the line and then you're done paying it and there's no more payments. For many life insurance products out there, not all of them, some of them, a lot of them, you pay until you croak, you pay until you die. So there's a long-term view that somebody buying life insurance has to have when they make that decision. Is this something that they're willing and comfortable to pay indefinitely for possibly decades, $50 to $100 a month for? The problem I see with what's going on in this COVID crisis that we're going through is people who make a living still questioning whether or not they feel comfortable making a long-term purchase decision. Okay. So for example, I started in this business in 2011 during the Great Recession. I had a personal training gym. My clientele were middle class, upper middle class people. And things are going great until they got afraid, not because they ran out of money, but they got afraid of what was coming down the line financially. Or were things going to get worse? There was more of a feeling of uncertainty. And when people don't know what the future brings as far as economic certainty, they stop spending money. It just makes sense. So why does that matter? I think we're kind of in a similar circumstance right now. I think if you sell to people who make a living by working, then you're putting yourself in a position where do they even know what's going to happen in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? And while you can sell a policy today, what if they canceled in 3 to 6 months because their company laid them off? That's always a concern throughout any good or bad times, but it's more of a concern when you're dealing with potentially recession, if not depression times coming down the pike. Again, I don't know what to expect, but it is something that I would caution everybody who's thinking about jumping into this business. I would ask, is this product line something that has a resistance toward bad economic times? So in our agency, I can just tell you what we do. We focus on the senior market. So our clients are all baby boomers, the vast majority of which are retired, disabled, and drawing a fixed income. So they don't need to work to make money because they've already worked to make their money. They're in a position now to where the government's going to pay their paycheck really regardless of what the economy does. And it would take literally a civilizational upheaval where the government would collapse for Uncle Sam to stop cutting checks. So there's a much more higher level of certainty in our clients in buying things long-term because they trust that they'll continue to get paid all the same. And I think from a business opportunity standpoint, that gives us a great opportunity to not only help more people, because there's a huge number of people in the senior market and growing every day and really for the next 2 decades, but it gives us an ability to sell a product that has longer-term certainty. So, so these are the things I would ask in insurance. Is this something that's going to give us some level of certainty so that the policy stays on the books? Because as we say in this business, the policy that pays is the policy that stays. We don't want to sell something and drop it off in a month or two. It's a waste of time.
Right. All that work for basically nothing, right?
Right.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Well, let's move then again into choosing your agency. We'll kind of advance again. We talked again a little bit about that when we're at least trying to weed out the MLMs and maybe what you might not want to look at. So what makes up a good agency to you? What are the things and factors that I should be looking for as a new agent or someone looking to get into a career selling insurance? Who should I sort of, tie myself to?
So the big thing is training and support. Okay. In the context of learning the craft of selling insurance, you should be part of an organization that values knowledge, training, and will help you personally to become better, become competent. That's a big thing. So what that actually looks like, you should see some sort of training regimen that involves online training, face-to-face training, group training if accessible and appropriate, especially these days. It may not be, but you should be able to do the same thing online or group type of conference calls. There should be a lot of avenues to learn whatever product that you're getting into and whether niche it's in. Also, you should have, in most cases, some sort of marketing training. I believe if you come into the insurance business and you have no idea how you're going to get in front of the prospects that would appreciate what you have to offer, you're not in business. You're already out of business. So marketing is just as important as sales training. You have to have, as we say in this business, people to see. That's how you become successful. So that marketing strategy may consist of working your existing warm market, some kind of cold calling process. For us in our marketplace, it's purchasing leads via Facebook or direct mail. Either way, there should already be not only a marketing training type of thing provided to the agent, it should be proven. No agent new to this business should be the guinea pig for some sort of marketing system. In fact, I would recommend anybody looking to get into this business, if the agency says they have a marketing system, ask how does it perform? What do agents say about it? Can you give me some examples of success from it? Anybody that is asked that should be able to provide confident answers. And if not, then there's something amiss. So that's pretty much the core of it, is training, support, and definitely some sort of marketing system that, again, has a proven level of success. Both of those, if you can find that in an agency, is probably a pretty good pick.
Okay. So for you, it's not necessarily even what the tech is, as long as there's technology or there that can help you. I'm thinking more again about that successful process that you can just jump into as potentially someone who's never done really sales before in your life. So you're basically the process will to some degree protect you, channel you, focus you, keep you from meandering too far. And then you've got the sales training that's happening, and then hopefully again some mentors, someone that's over your shoulder occasionally that's going to guide you to say, whoop, you're off the path a little bit here, or here's a better way to go on the road, here's a better way to deal with objections or to get past a no or something like that.
Yeah. So, and I'll put it in another way. So I run an agency nationally. I recruit agents to become top producers. I've already figured out what works in this business and what doesn't through my own efforts. I actually failed out of this business before getting back into it. So I literally know what it takes to fail and succeed. And when a recruiter, a smart agency owner that recruits agents, a smart one will want to recruit agents that will follow a system that's already proven. The way kind of I look at it is, I already know it works. There's no experimentation needed working inside of my sales marketing systems. I just need somebody who has the discipline and the humility to actually apply what I teach, because I know it'll work. I can't guarantee it. Sometimes this business isn't right for anybody. But I know for the person who's right for it, if they follow my process, they're likely going to see some kind of positive results that will turn into a lucrative career. So, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. There's no reason to think up some new fangled concept. This is a boring old business. People have been doing it forever, know how it works. It's rinse and repeat. And you need an agency that gets that has a strategy that's built around that. So all you need to do is take it and run with it.
Perfect. Okay. Now here's something else that maybe, and again, I'm not sure about this, but what should someone expect in terms of leads and how the lead system works? Because obviously, you're new. I've talked to others that are like, when you're new, generally you get older leads, or maybe ones that aren't the say more ready to buy. So you can train on them, right? They may not get them, but at least get you practicing on the phone, leaving messages, just going through the process and the steps. What should a rep expect there, though, in terms of when looking for something? What kind of leads are they expected to generate themselves from that kind of marketing, or given by their agency?
The agency should have some sort of system of recommendations in place. Again, this goes along with the last point. Duplication doesn't require invention. It's already been invented. It's already been tried and trialed. What you need as a new agent is recommendations or systems that are already pre-existing, that have been proven to work. So all you need to do is just follow through. Now, I have a penchant or a desire for agents new to selling insurance to purchase or find what's called exclusive and fresh leads. So a little bit of background on that. So in the leads game, you have leads that are just created. People have just expressed interest. You have leads that are old, that people had expressed interest maybe days, weeks, months, or even years ago. And you have leads that are recycled. People have already bought the leads once, and now they're worked back to the system for some other agent to purchase. The best lead to purchase is one that's exclusive and is never resold. Personally, as an agent, I want to talk to people who have just recently requested information. Why is that the case? Because they're at the peak level of interest right there. Whereas somebody who's 3 months, 6 months, or longer down the line, they could have been in that buying zone, but maybe shifted back to just their kind of general disposition about, I don't want to buy anything. I'm on a fixed income or whatever their excuse is. Also, they could have bought from somebody else. So you might buy aged leads and you're there 6 months later and they were interested, but they never heard from the original request they made. So they go make another one and buy from that person. Not to say you can't get that sale still. It's just much harder for the average agent. And the last thing you need to be concerned with is recycled leads. So these are people who have been sold or people have requested a lead. The agent bought it, may or may not have sold it, but it gets put back into the system. These become increasingly difficult leads. Not that there's no opportunity in them. Sometimes it's good. But again, if somebody's already seen 3, 4, 5 plus agents and you're the sixth one there, it's likely that they're not interested. So, and these are all things you just got to be concerned with. I'm not saying there's no opportunity in them, but in a perfect world, you want leads that have the highest level of intent, the highest level of interest. And those are the ones that have just requested the information. And those are the ones that aren't resold either, because then you don't have to worry about some other agent coming behind you to sell your newly closed prospect.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've got an idea then how to go look for the right place to put yourself, where to hit your card up to. Now the next thing is what do you need to know about what it's like to be an agent? What is your day going to look like? What is the work ethic that goes into it? And I can tell you, again, my wife and I are all scheming, to get ahead. And I had some friends too that were like, "Hey, Bergen, I think you'd be terrific as a real estate agent." And I looked at that and went, "They work nights, they work weekends, and they work all through the day." I don't think I want to be a real estate agent, right? They have different hours, and that's not really didn't appeal to me, despite that maybe my personality might fit it. So what is it like then for an agent? What should they expect? Because I think a lot of what happens is a lot of people expect, they get sold that you're going to make lots of money right away. It's not that hard. Like you said before at the beginning, you're just talking on the phone. How hard can it be? What does the day look like? How much effort do you need to put in? What does the reward look like for that effort too?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said earlier, this is a deceptively difficult profession. And your biggest competition is yourself. You're going to always be fighting the urge not to go to work, the urge not to get into your car to go see a client, the urge not to knock on the next door because the last one insulted and disrespected and slammed the door in your face, the urge not to pick up the phone and set an appointment because it's difficult and you don't like it anyway. So there's a big fight against yourself throughout the entirety of your career, day to day, hour to hour. And the more that you can master yourself, the better chances you're going to have at success long-term in this business. So you got to have this mindset of being determined, disciplined, have self-initiative. There's a much larger amount of that required in this business if you want to have any semblance of success. As far as the day-to-day goes, it depends on the type of product you're selling. But our primary purpose in life as an insurance agent is to see the people. It's to be in front of a prospect over the phone on a sales call, if you're doing over the phone sales, or face-to-face with the client as many times a day as physically possible. I personally, in the final expense market, would start my first appointment at 8 in the morning and would end at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, because my goal is to get 12 to 15 appointments at the peak of my face-to-face career. That doesn't have to be that much. Again, you may need less than that. It's personal goals are going to differ. My goal, if anything, is for agents to have a goal of hitting 15 completed appointments a week. We call this the magic number 15. Generally speaking, can't promise it, but agents who can hit 15 appointments and complete them a week generally do a lot better than those that don't. So this is all about, and this goes back to my last point, all about activity. It's all about getting in front of people and asking them if you can help regarding their insurance needs. And really, that's how your day looks. You get up, you leave the house, you have your lead cards in hand, like what we teach in Final Expense, and you arrive unannounced and ask to come in on the spot to close them on the spot. Or you're calling appointments to set for later that day or possibly the following day. And it's really not a complex system anymore than that. Where the complexity is handling yourself, staying motivated, despite the setbacks. You may have a great week one week and then a bad week the next. It's normal. It happens to everybody. And then just keeping disciplined and going back to the first point, focused on what does work and then leveraging it and scaling it to the level that you want. So yeah, I mean, it's, the best insurance agents know that where the money's at is in front of their clients. It's in front of their prospects. And they fight to see as many of those people each and every week, knowing that most of them probably aren't going to buy, but that's okay because it just takes a handful of clients to make this a really lucrative business.
Okay. So you need to have a very resilient, you need to be a resilient person for this.
Right.
You've got to understand that it is going to be work. You've got to be self-motivated. You've got to be willing to take on that challenge, find the challenge exciting because it's going to be challenging at times. Okay, terrific. Now, is there maybe a background that you feel makes for a better insurance agent? So maybe someone who did something else in their career and then decided to go into insurance that you find better, or and this doesn't really matter, I suppose. I'm not trying to say everyone has to go out and start doing those things, but just out of curiosity, do you feel like it's I was in sports or whatever it is that someone did that makes them a better agent? Life experience.
My top agent last year literally was flipping burgers 2 years before at age 20, literally, like working at McDonald's flipping burgers. I've had great agents that have literally sold horses, medical device sales, construction work prior. This is like the multi-million-dollar question. If you could tell me what characteristics up front that would mean I would have a six-figure earner and make a lot of money for myself and the agency and themselves, then I would be retired in 5 years. But that's the thing that's weird about this business, is that there are people who you would never figure would be successful that somehow find a way and an attraction to this business and do extremely well. I know another guy is in the business that he's a YouTube guy and he has his own channel, and he only has a GED. He never went to college. He didn't graduate high school. And he makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. He makes a very good income doing what he does. And I don't know. It's just, there's really no rhyme or reason. I think that's what makes this business attractive, is that you don't need to know anybody. You don't need to have a network. You don't need to have, recommendations from people far up the ladder. This really does come down to what's your ability to make something from nothing. You were to go out there, connect with people on where they stand and live in their lives, and show them how your product can solve for a sincere problem that they have in their life. And it's nice because this is what's great about this business. It affords the ability, even with those without some sort of, pedigree, if you will, for an honest shot to having a great business model. So you give me a call once you figure out how to find those top agents, and
I'll do that.
I'll cut you in on the deal after I sell it in a couple of years.
Fair enough. I'm working on the formula right now. I am thinking, though, I guess again, to summarize, and again, I don't know how to identify these people necessarily. Maybe you can identify it in yourself, though, if you're a new agent. You have to have, I think, a sense of entrepreneurship, right? You're working maybe for an agency, but you're kind of your own business, right? It sounds very much like you're building your business from scratch. You got to have that kind of go. And then I want to go back to actually something you said right at the beginning too, I think, when you were talking about agents and what makes a secret to success, and what you're doing around the training, being open to training, maybe checking your ego at the door kind of thing, and saying, okay, I was pretty decent at sales, maybe doing medical equipment, and I was an all right, lumberjack, or, at laying cement and stuff like that, but I want to do something different. I will be humble. I will listen to people who've done this for a long time. They seem to have a system in place. I will trust the system. I'll trust what you're telling me. I will do that, as opposed to say I know better or follow too much of their own gut. Does that ring true?
Yeah. So it's funny. A lot of success in this business comes down to some mindset things, and it's hard to teach. Either, I think, as an agent, have it or you don't. And perhaps something of the association with the agency you're with has an impact on that. I don't know for sure. But like, for example, humility is really important. We teach a system, like I said earlier, we know works for the agent that it's right for. And there's no question that following the lead system, the marketing system, then sales strategy if you do enough activity, and if this is a good fit for you, there is the possibility for really good results. But there is a temptation with some agents to tinker with the system, to convolute it, to change it to something they feel is better, but really have no basis for any of their changes. And I can say this from personal experience. I failed out of the business at my 1 year mark in, based precisely for this reason. I considered myself smarter than this boring old approach to selling final expense life insurance. And then 2 or 3 months later, I was done. I was roasted. I didn't have any money in my account. I had to go get a real job working for somebody. And luckily came back, of course, but I lost my humility. I thought I was better than what works. And it's not that innovation or creativity is a bad thing. It just has its place. It's a double-edged sword in this type of system where my job is to try to convince you, just do what I say because it's going to get you results. And isn't that the reason you're here? You got to contend with that. Some people have that more creative side where they have to innovate. And sometimes that can be problematic. Ultimately, too, since this is running a business, you have to take a leap of faith. There is going to come a point, whether you run a business, and this is true probably for any entrepreneurial endeavor that, you get 100% commission based off of performance. There's going to come a point where you just have to go out there, even if you have imperfect knowledge, and just wing it. Maybe not wing it entirely, but after you developed a basic understanding, of course, but you're going to have to kind of work through things. Because the only way that you're going to learn anymore is actually by performance and making mistakes, seeing what they are, and then fixing them and never making them again. I liken this to, if I were to become a basketball player, I'm not going to be the next Kobe Bryant reading about basketball in some, play guide, right? For the next 10 years. I actually have to get on the court, get beat up a little bit, play the game, and maybe learn a few things because of what I actually performed. Same thing in this business. So you cannot be a perfectionist, in other words, is what I'm trying to say. You've got to be prepared, but you've got to be prepared to fail so that you can learn and grow that much more. So humility, faith is really important. Certainly all the other factors we've mentioned already, the discipline, being a self-starter, focus. These are all critical elements if you want any sort of semblance of success selling insurance.
All right, cool. That's good info. And we're going to, I think, come back to mindset a bit further. I want to just jump, though, into talking a little about the lead funnel again, because you did mention that as being really critical, is having a full lead funnel. So tell me more a bit about that. How do I, again, as a new agent, identify that? I guess we talked a bit about that, how to find that in your agency, what they're going to do to help you get leads. But what does that mean, though, as a new agent? By saying have a full lead funnel, how do I keep it full?
Yeah, so you want to have people to see, all right? And not only you want to have people to see, you want to have enough people to see for the capacity or the inventory of your time that you have available. The worst problem in this business is too few people to see. The best problem is too many people to see. And your ultimate goal should be to work towards having so many leads that you cannot physically get in touch with all of them every single week. When you're doing that, you will maximize your opportunity and close more business because of it. So how do you get to that point? Well, you got to find a lead source that's been proven to work. If you're joining an agency, they should be able to answer this question right away. It may be something internal, it may be something external, but there should be ways to do this, methodology to do this. The next step is, what do you need to answer the question, how much leads do I need to do or buy on a weekly, regular basis that will afford my production or appointment goals? So it depends on the industry. Some industries need less leads, some need more. Depends on the lead type as well, Facebook leads, direct mail. But all of this should be figured out, and all of it should be clear. But the point is that you should figure out what that is and then do it. And then so that you can keep your pipeline full. And for all of you who are brand new to any kind of sales, this is the critical element. This is a numbers game at the end of the day. This insurance business, I don't care what you're selling, if it can be something that just is highly technical and have a lot of training element to learning the product, but it's ultimately still numbers. If you're not in front of enough people, I don't care if you're Tony Robbins, if you're not in front of enough people, you can only get so much success out of the system that you're using. So having a pipeline full of leads, of prospects, whatever it is is your most important task that you can do. If you don't, then you will probably fail quicker than you think.
Right. Okay. Well, and that makes total sense. Now, actually, we had our previous guest on our webinars actually was talking about aged leads. And I know, again, you were talking a bit about that, and you really like to have the fresh ones, the people that are really there to buy. And he said, well, the nice thing about age leads, again, besides you can use them maybe for new reps to train on a little bit, they're a lot less expensive. And they're good for topping up that funnel, right? Because, as you say, sometimes people change pretty quickly insurance. You might be able to change them if you reach them. People are kind of always essentially buying insurance one way or another. Or maybe they're looking at amalgamating their home and auto insurance. There's something going on there in terms of insurance that they might be looking to buy or renegotiate. Maybe economic times make it such that they want to maybe find a policy that's a little bit less. So, he just said, hey, you could look at aged leads as a possibility to help keep your funnel topped up. So there's enough there that you're working. Maybe it takes a lot more of these to get those, 15 appointments out of them, but at least they're there to help maybe fill in those gaps in your week where your other leads maybe weren't there. So it's a nice way to make sure you have that threshold number or whatever it is, that starting number of, I need 300, leads in my pipeline every week, so fresh leads to be able to chase to get my 15 or whatever that may be. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, right? I mean, you can definitely run systems exclusively on age leads, and there's a point to be made there. You wouldn't believe how many leads that are generated or never actually called on. I used to see that a lot early in my career. We used to have access to age leads, and you could get good deals if you were in an area where there wasn't a good agent who wasn't working, or they just bought 20 leads and disappeared but had all these excess leads. It worked wonderfully. So it's any lead will work. It doesn't really matter what you're using, age leads, et cetera. The key is how many leads do you have to get and how many do you have to work to leverage to whatever your appointment setting goals. In other words, age leads probably won't set as often or comply through in a presentation as often as an exclusive lead, but you make up for that difference in volume, which is why with age leads, it's smart to pick up not 10, but 100 plus in order to get where you want to be with your appointment setting and sales process.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's go into to the last point. We started a little bit out already. We talked about your mindset, and we talked about, having an entrepreneur mindset, being humble, and you don't have to look at necessarily perfection, having discipline though. So summarize again, if you can, some of those keys that really make for a good insurance agent, maybe something that we haven't talked about yet too.
Yeah. So we talked about a lot of what really matters, focus, self-discipline, self-starter, penchant, humility, focus already, taking a leap of faith. I don't know, Bergen, if I can really add anything else than that. I mean, that's really what makes the difference in business. I mean, this isn't rocket science. There's no secret silver bullet here. These are very simple systems. It's just not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And that's where people get stuck up, is usually some portion of those mindset issues lapse. Maybe they don't have humility and they get lazy, and then they get, beat bad when it comes to running appointments. They don't say anything. Maybe they lose focus, right? And they become less effective. They think they should sell something else in addition. And now they start to lose, effectiveness. So, it's really pretty conclusive what we talked about. And the challenge in this business is making sure all of those factors are held stable. That is easier said than done. It's very easy for some of us to get off a track. And most of us have something like that along those lines that we're more susceptible to than others. The key is recognizing that, knowing thyself, and making sure that you run a business where you can try to accommodate for that as much as possible.
Sure. So here then something that I was thinking about then too a little bit. You're a new sales agent. Maybe you're new to sales in general, especially this kind of volume. How do you cope with the discouragement, right? You're going to be calling a lot. Either you're not going to get them, or you're going to get some, going to get some no's, or like you said before, maybe you get someone who's just downright rude to you. It can be a bit demoralizing. How do you shrug that off? How do you keep that rejection and have sort of physical effect on people? How do you cope with that so that I'm lazy? I'm scared. I'm new at this. I'm nervous, and boy, oh boy, now I'm getting rejected a bunch of times, and it's maybe getting worse. How do I pull myself out of that kind of funnel or tunnel down into a spot where I just give up because, emotionally, or I can't deal with it, even though there's lots to it I like?
So, I mean, I can give you the logical things that sometimes can make a difference. They're rejecting not you, they're rejecting the product. It's not personal. How could they reject you? They don't know you. And that does kind of help. To me, I think you want to be, and I made this discovery a couple of years in, when you're in a position of power as an agent or a salesperson, all of this stuff doesn't matter as much. It always is going to matter to some extent. It affects some people more than others. But the power is in caring, but not that much. And the way that you do that is having enough people to actually sell to, and goes back to the other point. The best position to be in is having too many people to see. I can tell you this: if I'm running 15 appointments in a day, I know I'm going to sell some insurance. The odds are on my side; they're in my favor. And if I have 2 or 3 people who are just complete, whats, they're rude, they're disrespectful, they waste my time, I'm not nearly going to be as angry about it because I've got 13 more people to see. And the odds are very much in my favor that I'm going to run into a prospect that really wants to talk to me, they're really interested in what I have to say, and they're going to buy. So it's kind of a thing where it becomes easier to manage when each individual instance doesn't matter as much. If all you're running is 5 appointments a week, and that 1 or 2 tells you no, that's going to hurt a lot more than if you're running 50 or 25 even. So I think what the solution to this is recognize that you will have a lot more confidence and strength in this business when you're running a lot of appointments. All of this stuff really gets easier to deal with when you've got way too many people to see. When you are crushed with time, and time's not a problem anymore. Most of us have too much time. When you're in a position you have too little time because you're seeing so many people, it doesn't matter anymore. It may irritate you slightly, but who cares? You got 14 more people to see for the day, or whatever that number is. So that's really the answer that I give my agents is, if it bothers you, how many appointments you're running? Well, of course it's going to bother you. You're running 5 appointments. You should be hitting 15. So why don't we think about hitting 15? Because who cares what one person out of 15 says? Matters more if it's 1 out of 5, because the odds aren't in your favor.
Right. Okay, well, that's a great tip, and we'll just maybe use that as a segue into any final tips you might want to give. But to me, I'm going to summarize that as basically, as you said before, it's a numbers game. So just keep working those numbers. That'll make you happier, give you that more confidence, because like you said, you're going to have enough. Oh, they said no, they were rude, whatever. I got more to deal with. I'm not going to worry about you. And it's not as important that I close you, because there's more waiting for me. So anything else, anything maybe we didn't cover that you might want to mention here about for any new sales reps just ready in?
So this is a get rich slow business. It's not a get rich quick business. I really think that given you're in the right business model in the insurance business, 6 figures should be within reach within a couple of years of you investing your time in it. For those who are thinking about getting into this business or possibly doing it, and maybe they're going through a lot of the frustration that we've described today, stick to it. The outcome of a long career selling insurance, you get so many opportunities, not just from an income standpoint, but just a quality of life standpoint. I work from home. I have agents that work from home. I'm here for all my kids' events. I'm here when my wife needs me. I'm not on the road grinding it out, staying overnight places. Like, you don't have to do that. You can actually leverage real life passive income opportunities in selling insurance. But it takes a long time for most agents to get there. I did an interview recently on my YouTube channel with my wife. It was really good. And I asked her, I said, at what point did you feel like we kind of made it, where you could see things were getting really good and we were definitely moving up the ladder in life? And she said it was about 5 years in. It was about maybe 4.5, 5 years in. And so, it was a struggle prior to that. But I look back, I'm 9 years in now, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. So if you're out there doing this, don't give up. This is, some famous agent once said, this is like going to school, like resident school. You're going to not make any money, be working like a dog, like a resident in medical school would for like 4, 5, 6 years. But then something happens, you hit that 4th, 5th year mark and things really take off. Sometimes it's faster for some, but it is a process where the old hockey stick analogy works too. You'll be putting in all this time, you see some effort from it, and then all of a sudden it clicks and the results skyrocket. So just stick with it. It's much better than working for somebody else, guys. I can tell you that. And the rewards are certainly worth it if you can stay focused.
All right, David, thank you very much. That was very enlightening. And I want to thank you for being on our webinar today. We've run out of time. We could probably go on forever. You are an absolute encyclopedia of information about insurance sales. Folks, if you haven't been to his website yet, if you haven't already subscribed to his YouTube channel, and if you haven't got his books, then what are you waiting for? Please do so. So again, David, I want to thank you very much. Everyone, thank you very much for being on our webinar. Again, in a couple of days, it will be available on our website. It will be available on YouTube. You can come back, check it out again, spread it around to other insurance agents have a look. Learn, and then go out there and find the resources for you to learn even in more detail from your agency, the one that you now know how to pick, know how to choose, and become an excellent insurance agency. And again, make that little hockey stick as short as possible so you can just go zooming right up to some fabulous income and a career in insurance.